Senator, good to have you. There are a couple of your colleagues, sir, who don't like what's coming out of the House and are fine-tuning something maybe to their more conservative liking. I believe Rand Paul, Lindsey Graham, could be others that I'm missing, Senator Lee. What do you make of that? Is that a brush fire we should pay attention to? Is this going to be speed bump city when it gets to the Senate? What?
I think what's going to happen when it comes to the Senate, Neil, is that there will be, and there should be, honestly, an opportunity for members to offer amendments. And I think with some of them, you mentioned some of them who have amendment ideas, they should get that opportunity. But in the end, the Senate will do its work. It will act. It will work its will. And my expectation is, if it passes the House tonight along the lines of what happened earlier on the vote on the rule, that's a pretty big majority of Republicans coming out of the House of Representatives, and I think that bodes well for its eventual passage in the Senate. But, you know, there are procedures we have to go through here, just like they do in the House, and this is a arduous process, but give great credit to Speaker McCarthy and the House leadership for at least being able to move something where we started at zero. I mean, President Biden wanted a clean debt limit increase with zero spending reforms. We got $1.5 trillion in spending reforms and a number of other important reforms, and so net, this is a good thing.
I've raised this with others. If you don't mind, sir, I'd like to raise it with you. Your party's two leading presidential candidates right now have not been fans of this process. Ron DeSantis, of course, is in Iowa, busy campaigning after announcing he's formally running for president, that this is nothing more than a Band-Aid for politicians, finds the deal totally inadequate. A few weeks after Donald Trump himself had said that, go ahead and default. If Republicans aren't getting what they want, go ahead and default. Now, I know they're both candidates now, very different from being in power in that sort of matter, but do you think those are responsible positions?
I think it's, everybody has an opinion about this. It's kind of the story of the day. It's what you all are talking about. It's what a lot of people on the campaign trail are talking about. And if one of them ends up in the White House, if a Republican ends up in the White House, this would be a very different deal. This is divided government. The Democrats control 2/3 of Washington. They have the White House. They have the United States Senate.
But it also changes once you get that job, right? Once you become a senator like yourself, or once you become president, that you don't necessarily keep those same positions. Joe Biden's a very good example, right?
You have to, it is a process where there are trade-offs, and clearly you don't get everything you want. This isn't a perfect deal. It's less for defense than I would have liked, and not enough on non-defense discretionary. But if you look at the permitting reforms, you look at the work requirements, you look at the clawback of COVID funds and IRS funds from the Democrats' big spending spree from last summer, there are a lot of good things in here that bend the curve in the right direction, and that's what this is really all about. Spending's been growing out of control. The House negotiated this without any tax increases, without any new government programs. They reduced spending on the non-defense side, got a plus up in defense. Again, I mean, it's not perfect, believe me, and we're certainly hearing that from our members in the Senate. But in the end, you have to make a deal, and I think that they played the hand they were dealt in the House and came up with a proposal that hopefully will get not only a strong vote in the House, but in the Senate as well.
We have a couple of new entrants in the presidential race, as you know, Senator. Chris Christie's going to make a go of it a second time next week. Vice President Pence, former Vice President Pence, indicating the same next week. I believe that will make 10 candidates. But you've thrown your support behind South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that. Why?
I have a lot of respect for Senator Scott, and I love his approach to politics, and it's something I think is missing in our political conversation these days, and that is hope and optimism and a positive approach. And he's an aspirational candidate, is an inspirational candidate with a background that I think is, he can really connect and relate to a lot of people across this country. He's probably the most consistently conservative candidate in the race right now, but he talks about his views in a way that I think is winsome. And I think he's a guy that could really resonate on the campaign trail if he gets the opportunity, and he will be out there. Obviously, it's a lot about raising money, and there'll be a lot of candidates out there and a lot of competition. But I like his prospects, and I think if he gets the chance to get in front of people, he can win them over.
A lot of people say he's too nice to be president. In fact, the proof was in the pudding when Donald Trump commended his entry into the race. He hasn't done that with anyone else.
I think that, Tim Scott is tough. I've worked with him in the Senate. We worked on a lot of the tax reform stuff together. In his time here, I've had a chance to see him in action on a daily basis. He's got what it takes to do this job. And the fact that he is nice shouldn't be a disqualifying thing. It's okay to be nice in politics.
I tell people that all the time, Senator, all the time.
Right.
You get the same rap. You get the same rap. I mean, I'm just wondering: is this what's happening on the floor of the House and maybe in the Senate later on? A potential of reaching across the aisle, letting cooler, calmer heads prevail, trying to work with the other side, getting a little bit of what you want, getting a little bit of what they want, and not being crazy.
I think there's and in the end, people in this country want you to deliver. They want to see solutions produced, and those solutions aren't going to get you everything you want as a conservative, like myself and others here, and certainly not going to get you everything you want as a liberal, especially in a time of divided government. If one side had all the wheels of power, which the Democrats did 2 years ago, and they ran up spending and debt and taxes and expanded and grew government, divided government requires a certain level of cooperation, collaboration. I think that's what you've seen in this process. And again, so it doesn't give you everything that you want, but on balance you have to weigh, and in my view at least, the wins that they got in this, the House Republicans, outweigh the disadvantages here and make this on balance a good deal. And that's the way in a divided government, for better or worse, the process has to work if you want to get any sort of solutions.
Well, here it looks like it is. Senator, you exemplify that. Pretty cool, calm head on your shoulders there. So we'll see what happens. Senator Thune, always good seeing you.
We will indeed. Thanks, Neil. Good to be with you.